free. Apologies. I did have to update my app. Don't tell Dunk. But also while I was updating my app, a clothes rail collapsed on my girlfriend, so I had to go save her. Yes, I should have gotten a picture of it, but I didn't. Right, let's start trying. I don't know what that noise was, but I'm also not too sure what's going on. I have to. Hey, yes, we are live. Good evening.
Success.
Thank you for your patience. Unfortunately, I didn't update my app. Doc's here, and he's heard me say that now, so that's me in for.
I mean, not to lie, so did I. So it's fine.
You know what? Don't message me in a week. He's like, you're in charge. Make sure you everything's sorted. And I was like, yeah, I've got it.
Yes, yeah.
So good evening. Welcome along to
Thank you.
tonight's episode of the Inquisition, which we can now officially start 10 minutes late, which for me is good. I am the host for this evening. My name is Casey, aka Penhammer, loitering on the main channel. For those of our followers out there that do not know who you are, give us just a little brief introduction.
Oh God, this is like, you know, when you're at school and the teacher goes, "Tell everyone about yourself," and you're like, So my name is Kate. I'm actually pretty new to Warhammer. I think I started about 3 years ago. It was a hobby I was always interested in, but I was such a shy and awkward individual that when I was younger, they were like, going to the shop. I was like, no, don't be silly. There's boys in there. Get cooties, you know. But since getting into it, have just, I've become a little bit obsessed.
Fair enough. It's one of those unhealthy obsessions that we all tend to develop with it. There's Dunk in the flesh, and he's out in the wild. That is actually a bush behind him.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not his,
I saw you on a lake.
Yeah, we're on a lake, man. Me and the wee missus. Are we carp fishing?
Or?
Yeah, we bit of carp fishing. This is our humble abode for the night.
Nice.
So yeah.
Is that not just a coat on some sticks?
No, but we're a bit more civilised than that in Northern Ireland, Casey.
It's a blanket, all right? Get your facts right.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of tarpaulin he found in a ditch.
Yeah. You know.
That army on the back. So, getting back to our guest, Kate. I was going to say tonight that I noticed looking through your Instagram, because I always do that when Dunk books a guest and I don't know who they are.
Yep.
I go on and do a little bit of research. The main thing I picked up was when you started off, your post was, issue of the Imperium, here's what I've painted. Issue of the Imperium, here's what I've painted. Did you find that, considering what you were saying, that, you know, when you saw those shops and you saw all the blokes and all the stereotypes that go with it, the magazine, was that like a really good gateway into it for you?
It was, because I could kind of order it to my home, and it's not so much that, you know, oh guys kind of thing. It's more, I'm very shy and I can talk to people like fine like this, but if I have to go into a crowd, my brain just goes, no. So the magazine was a really, really lovely way that I could have it delivered to my house and sit in the safety of my little desk that I've got here and sort of be introduced to it. I had a lot of friends with it, because a lot of my friends growing up were guys, because I was always kind of like the nerd girl. So I was always the one who, you know, I loved Lord of the Rings, I loved Halo, I loved Call of Duty, I liked gaming, I used to skateboard. Like, it was kind of, I was very, very tomboyish. And so a lot of my friends, like, I begged for years to let my friends play let me play Dungeons and Dragons with them, and it's only in the last few years that I finally found a group that I play with. So it's kind of, it's something I always looked at and thought, oh, that looks so good. And then so when it was actually my ex, so my daughter's dad, he has been doing Warhammer since he was at school. And we're really, really good friends still. Like, we still, like, if I get a magazine and he wants one of them, I'm like, yeah, we'll like swap these for something. And like, we're really, really cool with each other. And it was him, and he said, have you seen the magazine? And I was like, oh, but let me get on Google. You know, I think we've been sat there, we had a couple of glasses of wine, and I was like, click, you know, as you do. And just went from there instantly. Kind of, I'm one of these people, I get the magazine and I will read the entire magazine. So I was just like, well, these Necrons under the ground for thousands of years and want revenge, these sound awesome. So yeah, instantly drawn in with not just the models, but also like all the backstories.
Yeah.
So
How important to you then, as someone relatively new to this, do you feel that the backstory, the lore, the world building of it all has helped? Because when I'll be honest, when I first got into it, I was just sort of like, okay, here's a rule book, here's a load of cool art pictures, and then you read some of the stuff on it, and you're just like, oh. But how you obviously seem quite receptive to that.
I think, yeah, for me, because I've always been a massive reader anyway. Like, I was the kid at high school who would be in the library reading Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings rather than out playing.
Sure.
So when I got that magazine, and for me, I will admit I'm more of a painter than a player. I've only ever played a handful of games. Okay. I think more for the fact that I've just not had anyone to play with. But when it came to the building and painting, it's kind of like, well, I want to kind of know what I'm painting and why, and then that can lead on to how you paint them, and you're like, oh, well, I could get a backstory going with this, and you know, why are they on the desert base? Well, did you know, sort of thing. So because my imagination will just run wild with it all. So I love something having a story. Like, for me, that just makes it 100 times more magical.
Sure. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose if your background is the reading, all of that sort of stuff, then yeah, that makes perfect sense. Going back then, you said you had you were the tomboy girl, you were hanging around with the nerds, you were sort of into that. You touched on trying to get into Dungeons and Dragons with your mates, but did they just not let you?
Yeah, so basically I had two separate friends who I won't name because I love them still, but they both played Dungeons and Dragons, and it was kind of, for them, it was boys' night. So I get it. It was like guys' night was Dungeons and Dragons. So it was like, no, you can't come in. But, and it's fine because I play regularly with, we've got Purple Pikachu and Lord Varys of Nurgle on Insta, who I play with, and also our friend Luke, because Luke's up in Kent, I'm down near Brighton, they're further west, so we play remotely.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, so we do it through D&D Beyond, and we play it, but yeah, the lady that DMs for us is just incredible, and she was so helpful with me setting it all up. She tried to get my son into it, who first session, about 10 minutes in, decided to try and take on, I think it was a griffin at level 1, and just instantly died. So hasn't come back since. And she was like, I put him there for you to realize you can't do everything. And my son was like, attack.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the very, very short-lived career of his D&D campaign.
But you know, that's the fun of D&D. You know, you just, when you started off, just who cares? I mean, especially...
It's good fun. I mean, because we're on our second campaign now. So the first one, I was kind of told that I'd made a character that was basically kind of just myself. I was like this elf druid, and any friends that know me, I think a few of them have actually recently called me a tree-hugging hippie. Like, I'm like, nature's so beautiful. Look, I'm going to carry this bumblebee to safety, and don't squash the spider. I'll take it outside and all that stuff. And so the second time round, the DM suggested, why don't you try something out of your wheelhouse so that you can actually, you know, be a little bit different. So I'm just a little human rogue, nothing special, but actually it's quite good fun because it's all the things that you want to say, but you're like, well, I can't say that, it's impolite. Like, my little human rogue is like, fuck you, bitches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
you've got Sons of Fresh and Lord Varys and Nurgle both in the chat giving you stick for being a tree-hugging hippie. Yep. So,
all right. Fresh was picking on me yesterday because I've got a seagull that lands on my windowsill and taps, so I come and feed him, and his name is George. Yeah. I know I don't. So he was just like, he just keeps sending me the little mine memes from Finding Nemo.
There's a guy on Instagram who's got an Instagram page for his pet seagull, Steve. He's a Scottish guy. Do you follow him at all?
Is that the one that feeds him salmon?
Yep.
Yes.
And
yes, I do.
he made a chair and all that, so he could actually get to try and pet it and get it to sit, and he's like, apparently it's ripped its...
Yeah, no, George comes and he sits on the windowsill and he goes tap, tap, tap. And I come along, and it's always things like, you know, when you got that last bit of bread that's gone off. So you kind of like, I break it up and I pop it on the windowsill. And then he eats it and then he flies off. And then the next morning, I've got a friend, the D&D friend, Luke, who comes over and he stays on my sofa and he's like, fucking George woke me up tapping on the window at 4 a.m. I'm like, I'm really sorry. But there's a little box of George bread in the kitchen. Just go and give him some.
I'm not. I don't know if it's the South London in me that dislikes Brighton, or it's just my inane dislike for seagulls in general. No, I'm not here for that. If a seagull taps on my window, I'm going to try and punch the bastard.
They're generally quite. Yeah, I mean, like my son, when we were about 5 years ago walking along, and he just bought one of those caramel cream egg things. The little fuckers came behind him and swiped the entire thing, and he's kind of going, and then he kind of went, I hope he chokes on that egg, and he went, no I don't, that's mean, I hope he didn't enjoy it. It's like, oh, you're definitely mine, love, sorry.
Yeah. No, I got assaulted by a seagull on Brighton Pier once, and I've never forgiven.
Did you have chips?
No, you know what? The person behind me did, and the bastard flew into me to try and get his chips.
They take out anything in its path.
I tell you what, I caught its wing in my head, right? And it was like getting whacked with a bamboo stick across the forehead.
Oh no,
and ever since then,
yeah, they can be. I'm just saying George isn't, so it's fine.
To be painted. Now, on that, I will say I'm going off topic. We do go off topic a lot on this.
No, I'm all for that.
Great. Have you seen the guy that has the video channel where he gets him and his cow to try and make dinner?
Yes, I have.
I can't remember what it's called, but all I got is images of this guy feeding his seagull salmon, and then the guy and the cow trying to make breakfast just popped into my head. So I just had to ask that question.
There are worse things to think about.
At the moment, on the internet, there's definitely, yes. So let's go back to the hobby stuff for the moment. Obviously, Imperium magazine, I remember it well. I was picking up copies left, right, and centre, and it helped me build my Necron army. Have you sort of stuck with collecting the magazines as a whole, or have you sort of just really looked into it and gone out and thought, I like the look of XYZ, I am just going to start buying stuff and painting stuff I like?
Well, I stayed with Imperium right through until about 10 issues from the end, I think. And then it just got to a point where I was like, do you know what? I didn't like Space Marines, so waiting for Gilliman and all that wasn't an issue for me. Like, it wasn't something I wanted to like keep going for another 3 months just to have.
Yep.
So I did stop it, and then the Stormbringer magazine came out.
Yep.
And my first Sylvaneth model that I bought myself was Dreicher. And I'd gone into the Warhammer shop, and the first one I eyed up was a Lariel, obviously. She's frigging awesome and beautiful. And I kind of saw Dreicher and thought, you know what, it's kind of like a mid-range model, you know, it's not these tiny fiddly things, it's not a massive big one, but it's kind of enough to kind of go, I'm going to give it a go. She's really pretty, I really like her. Text my friend and he was like, so you're picking up Booby Tree Lady? I was like, yes I am. So did that, and was like, so that was kind of, apart from the Void Dragon from Necrons, that was kind of the first big model I bought myself outside of the magazines. So I started to venture into my local Warhammer shop, and I just absolutely loved it. So when Stormbringer came out, I was like, oh wow, Sylvaneth, they're trees and they're beautiful and colourful and lovely, and just completely got into them. And so since then, yes, I got a few of my Sylvaneth through the Stormbringer magazine, but I have since, like, I walk into my Warhammer shop now and I'm like, hey Matt, hey Pete, and they're like, hey Kate. So it's kind of I've got over that fear of being just a nervous person, and like made really good friends in there now, and if I need advice, they are really helpful. And there's also a comic book shop down the road where actually Pete works there now. He defected, but so go in there, it's like, hey Pete, and then like they do all like the different like Army Painter and Vallejo and all those sort of different paints and stuff, and they do a lot of D&D terrain, so I look at all that. And yeah, so kind of like the magazines start kind of like opened the door, and then it just flooded essentially.
Yeah. I was going to say, you did say Brighton, isn't it?
I'm near Brighton. I'm in Worthing, so
Worthing,
about 20 miles west.
Yeah, because Worthing's got its own store, I know, hasn't it? It's got its own proper little.
It's got its own proper Warhammer shop. Yeah. We didn't a few years ago, but yeah, now we do.
Yeah,
I think it kind of. I think the store started either just before or just after I got into it, so I was quite lucky with the timing.
Yeah, that is good timing, because my sister lives in she lives below Crawley, that's West Sussex, isn't it? And
okay.
I think, but anyway, like I'd always go down to see her. We'd always go to Worthing rather than Brighton, and so I sort of knew for a while that there wasn't much sort of going on with it. It just seemed like this is the edge of Brighton. This is where people live if we want to be Brighton, but actually go back there. But,
it's very much. I moved here about 12 years ago, and there was one shop called A&B Gaming, which was up on the Broadwater Road just before you got to the roundabout, and I always wanted to go in there, but it was kind of like because it was such a small little shop, they used to have the big table and then the little front of the store, and at the big table there was always a game or something going on. So I was just like, oh heck no. Look at all those people knowing what they're doing. So I never went in there, but then that closed down, and as that closed down, the Warhammer shop opened. So I don't know whether people from there kind of, I'm not sure because I never went in there enough to know who worked there, but yeah, it definitely. Well, I think it's becoming more.
Yeah.
It's people from Brighton are kind of going, well, Brighton's expensive and full of students.
Yeah.
Let's move that way.
Yeah, I get that. Because that's entirely what I've done. I've moved 100 miles north from London because London's too bloody expensive. So that's the way
big cities become popular and suddenly they outprice everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked your magazines, we've talked your Sylvaneth. Something that we like to sort of dabble with is getting to know as a hobby. We do a bit obviously where we focus on you, the hobbyist, and then later on you, the person, and we'll get into you, the person. But as the hobbyist, you've mentioned obviously, you know, the different hobby shops, the different range of paints. What's your preference?
The thing is, I keep being recommended paints by people because I have a lot of friends now. Obviously, like the community is so welcoming and amazing that I now speak to so many people and they recommend stuff to me all the time. But most of my paints are still Citadel purely because that's one, they were given to me through the magazine. And then because before the comic book shop down the road that has all the other paints only opened not even a year ago. So I kind of like that was, unless I wanted to order online, which I didn't want to chance really because I didn't know what I was doing. Most of my paints are Citadel. So I mean, I don't know if I can do this without breaking my phone, so bear with me. And also it's really dark in here. Thank you, heck.
Okay, whoa. Okay, that's a good selection.
So yeah, most of them are Citadel. I've got a few ones that I like to use because I like to kind of, sorry, it's really sunny, so I'm like vampire woman. I very much like Turbo Dork, purely not for a base paint or for anything specific, but like when I did my Crondis and I really wanted his wings to look like a galaxy, I kind of painted it all in like, you know, the dark and splotches and the colours and this, and then I used a paint called Glasses by Turbo Dork to go over it, and what it does is it kind of sheens between green and purple as you move it, so it makes it look more galaxy. So that's a range of paints I really like, just because they're not good for like if you want like the ones I've used for like a base or a very strong like impact, but when you want it to add that little bit something more, they're ones I've really enjoyed. The only other paints I've used are, she says, holding it up, Model Colour. And then Green Stuff World, I've used a couple of their fluoro paints. But other than that, yeah, most of mine are Citadel purely because I didn't want to order online because I wasn't too confident doing so. That's kind of the option I had to hand.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I know obviously Citadel get a bit of bashing from those, I would say, more experienced painters than anything. But there's a level of comfort in sticking with what you know, and if you know something works, you know it works at the end of the day. Why are you going to try and reinvent the wheel? If I always say that the old Reds back in the day were atrocious, but the new Reds now, brilliant. I think they're amazing for the Citadel paints. So, you know, why am I going to go out and fish for 10 different ranges of red when I know the corn red covers really well and I like it? So,
yeah, I mean, there are some colours in Citadel that have kind of become like, especially because Sylvaneth at the moment is the army I'm working on. It's the army I want to build up to hopefully eventually play.
Okay.
And there are some colours, you know, especially I've very much got into contrast colours.
Yep.
So I like to kind of prime myself in my Wraithbone and then work through contrast colours. And so there's a few there which are kind of constantly on my desk. Like they're never kind of in the stacks on the shelf. They're always there. But I know I'm so terrible with names. People tell me stuff and I just forget what it is instantly. And a few of them, because I'm kind of constantly bitching that I can't find a nice white. And people keep telling me about this particular white and I can't for the life of me remember what it's called.
Old Titanium White by Monument. Is that the one?
I don't think so.
Okay. That would be my recommendation.
I will try and remember that.
Yep.
But
I'll make sure I message you afterwards. That's my recommendation for a white. And a lot of I know a lot of the guys who do the big main sort of painting tutorials online, they tend to use it. I tell you what, I've dabbled trying to find a good white for years, and I got a hold of this. It's mustard.
Okay.
Pro Acryl, not Monument. It's Pro Acryl. Oh. Thank you, Ed.
Oh, Pro Acryl. Yes, that does sound more. Yes, the Pro Acryl actually rings a bell. Yes.
And there you go. Sons of Brush as well. Thank you for coming to my rescue. Because I said Monument, but that's a different company altogether, isn't it? I will learn one. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a thing. But yeah, get that as a white.
Okay, yeah, because obviously going through Citadel, and obviously I got Corax, which when you let it settle, you're like, why is this grey?
Yeah.
And then the only other white I use to like highlight anything is White Scar, because it is actually a white, but it's so insipid as a white.
Yeah.
You kind of like, it's good for like little highlights and like maybe some little bit of edge highlighting and whatever. But when I want like a proper base white, it's not the one.
No, I get you. So with that moving on from your paints to the gear that you use, because obviously there's so many different things out there nowadays. Obviously, you know, all those magazines, you get your paintbrush and your tools and stuff. Army Painter do loads of stuff. Green Stuff World do loads of stuff. What's your brush of choice, would you say?
Well, again, I've only ever used Citadel because that's what I've been given. Like my paint rack is a little. You're probably all going to hate me now, but this is my little. This is it. This is all I have. Like it's a little 3D printed thing that my friend did me, and half of the brushes are probably naff to crap.
Yeah, I think they need a bit of reflection.
But that is what, you know, when I did like my Alarial and my Kernel Hunters and my latest thing, they are what I used. So, I mean, in a very basic sense, they work.
Yeah.
It just, you know, it's one of those where you obviously hear about like your artist opus and stuff, and people go, these are the brushes, this is what you need if you want to. And it's like, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, for like 70 quid, I'm all right. I'll just stick with my old shit ones. Thanks.
Yeah.
I've got like an old eyeshadow brush somewhere that I use for like dry brushing.
Yeah.
That was probably in my makeup bag because I'm not a big makeup wearer. So like it's one of those people buy you your makeup brush kit, and I think I've used like the spongy thing. And then like so I got this thing, I was like, yeah, I could dry brush with that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've done it. I something that I always hype up about is the idea of hobby sustainability. That, like you say, companies out there like, oh, I'm not bad mouthing their products. They've never sent me anything to test, but I can only go on the price mark. And I'm sorry, I ain't paying 70 quid for one brush and whatever they charge.
I think it's like a little brush set, but it's not even the whole set. It's like you can get like your paint one, then you pay separately for like the dry brushing one. And I'm like, yeah, I dry brush with makeup brushes that cost me probably about £3.
Yeah, and again, saving money in there as well. You know, it's just a nice simple thing. You go down Superdrug, you can get like 2 or 3 of them for £5.
That's exactly it. Me and my boyfriend, he was down here a few weeks ago, and we went into Superdrug and bought makeup brushes because he was like, I need a dry brush. I'm like, yep, here we go. This is what, you know. So it's just, you can have the best stuff, and I'm sure that on some level it probably makes some sort of difference. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm an amazing painter. I'm not saying I'm a bad painter. But when it comes to it, it's, if it works, it works. It doesn't have to cost £30 or £3. If it works for you, it works.
Yeah, perfect. And you know what? That's what I love to hear, because that's exactly my attitude to it. No buying the high-end stuff. If you need a wet palette, a couple of bits of tissue, bit of baking paper,
baking parchment, and a washing up sponge. Like the big ones. Done.
Yeah, you ain't got to go mental.
No.
You can just go with whatever is the most basic, easiest thing to use. And as long as it does the job, it does the job. That is, I think, all of
my palette, if I can sort of, so I don't really, like I say, I don't really do stuff, but this is my, it's a box for a L'Oreal, and it's what I use to like brush all my paints onto before I use them. Yeah. Because it's big and it lasts, and there's a lot of space on it. So I'm like, yeah, this box will last me ages.
Yeah. I went ages ago and I bought a tile sample from Homebase to use as like a palette, and it was a quid.
Perfect.
It was a quid. It was cracked. It was a tiny little chip on the edge, so they weren't going to sell me a sample for £3. They were like, give it to you for a quid. I was like, brilliant. And it's the little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, my friend that 3D printed me my brush holder, also it's dirty, but this 3D printed it me for free. It's kind of, at the moment, it's got a lot of it's got some super glue and moss in it, because I was trying to make moss for something. I didn't have moss, so I had, from about 2 years ago, left over some artificial snow. So I put that and some PVA glue in with some green and brown contrast and like mixed it up. And I'll show you what I made. Hang on. And so made all of the moss on this thing.
Oh, cool.
I can't see it because my house is like really dark because I don't like the sun.
I did see the picture of that though, yeah.
So all of the moss on that is made from leftover fake snow and paint. But that's one thing I love about this hobby. I'd love to be able to afford all of the lovely scenery and the paints and the terrain stuff, but sometimes it's just nice to be a little bit creative with it.
And that's something that I always lead in with as well for people that are getting into it all. How have you found the expense of it? Because it isn't the cheapest hobby in the world.
No. I am extremely lucky that most of my big models have either been, so like L'Oreal was my go-to. She was the one, like I said, I walked in, and the first time I walked into the shop, I was like, whoa, that's a pretty model. But I was very intimidated by it because, you know, big girl. And I finally this year got it for my birthday, and it was a case of, I said to my family, if everyone just wants to chip in a tenner, I want to buy this model. And so that's what I was able to do.
Cool.
And then I've also been extremely lucky, like my friend Lord Vard of Nurgle, him and his missus sent me the Endless Spells for my birthday because we've been friends for so long, and you know, for his birthday I sent him something that he needed, and blah blah. And then another friend, Adeptus, over in America, I won a competition with a voucher, and it was only really able to be spent in America, so I sent him the voucher and said, look, I've won this, but I can't use it, so you have it, you know, might as well go to use. And next thing I know, he's ordered something on an English site to come to me from Sylvaneth as a thank you. And you know, it's just, and also Tiz, who was on your show not long ago, she, like, you know, I talked to her quite a lot. I think she's just an amazing person. Like, she's just awesome. And we were chatting, and she had a bunch of like dryads and a branch witch that was sitting there and she wasn't using. So she was like, I'll just send them to you.
Yeah.
So I've been excessively lucky with how amazing the community with Warhammer has been to get into the hobby, because I wouldn't have been able to afford half of it if they hadn't been.
Yeah.
So yes, it's an expensive hobby, but actually, if you get into the community and you realize how amazing people are, and you're happy to kind of give a little and as well, because not saying like, oh, you have to give to get, but things like I've had friends go, oh, you collect the magazine, how is it, blah blah blah, I couldn't get hold of a copy, and I'm like, well, I'm never going to build or paint this, like, let me post it to you.
Yeah.
And they're like, let me pay for it. I'm like, no, just have it, like, it's literally going to sit on my shelf otherwise, like, let me just send it to you. And then you find that people then reciprocate in a way, and it's just an inclusive and lovely, it's probably one of the healthiest communities I've been a part of, which is really nice.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, myself and Dunk do the same thing. Like, if I come across something that I've got and he needs, or vice versa, we just send each other the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if it's going to get used by somebody else, and it's going to be actually sort of, it's a weird way to say it, if it's going to be loved by someone else.
Exactly it. Like, if someone's going to actually build it and paint it and do justice to it, like, you know, yes, I think it was, I'm probably going to say this wrong because I'm so bad. I pronounce everything phonetically, so when I read it, it probably doesn't come out as I should. Is it Scarborough Allen or something? He's on Instagram. He's lovely, and he we were chatting. He said, oh, the Stormcast chariot. Someone went into my local shop and bought all 5 copies, and I was like, oh, well, that's a bit. Because I was looking for one, so I managed to get my one off my subscription. Then my local shop had one, so I grabbed it because my ex wanted it. So obviously I grabbed it for him because, like I say, we do a lot of swapsies and stuff. And then I told my nan about it, and so bless her, like, my 72-year-old nan, like, phones me up and goes, I found this chariot thing in my newsagent, so I got it for you. And I'm like, Nan, you're amazing. So I was like, look, I've got a spare one. Do you want it? And he's like, oh yeah, let me pay you for it. And I'm like, no, just like I've got a spare one. I'm not using it. I don't like Stormcast. Like, please have it, because I want to see what you're going to do with it. Like, for me, the joy comes from seeing how you've put your love and joy into it.
Yeah.
Like, my happiness comes from other people's happiness as well as mine.
Yeah. I'll put your name down into the little list of people that I've got that I send and do stuff with. So that's actually quite handy, that if you've ever got a trade or anything you want to swap.
Oh, no, amazing. Yeah, because I've got I've only got a tiny, you know, like the little metal Christmas tins you get.
Yeah.
I've got one of those. That's all I've got in my little spares so far, because obviously I've not been in it that long. I know people have got buckets of spares. But yeah, again, I've just kind of like posted up, oh gosh, I need some bases. Where can I buy them from? And next thing I know, I've had in the post turn up like 3 or 4 different people sending different bases. And it's like, wow. Okay. So if they're in the spares and someone else needs them, I'll happily sort of like, it's that pass that kindness along sort of thing. If I can't use them, someone else can. And that's amazing. Again, that's part of the community of Warhammer that I just think is incredible.
Yeah, cool. It's good to hear that you've got your own little sort of network of people that you can do that with, because so many people don't. And Sons of Thresh, I might hit you up for some Necrons. That's quite handy to know.
My chat's not working. I can't see the chat at all. It's stopped.
Oh, okay. Not sure what's going on there, but
anything interesting, let me know, because I can't read it.
If you excuse me for 1 second, I am going to stand up and I'm going to walk to another part of my kitchen, but my audio will still be on so you can hear me.
Okay.
It's just because I've got a bit of hay fever and I don't want to see anyone. No one needs to see me wiping my nose. Hang on. Sorry. Cool.
Snot fetish is not one of my things, but okay.
No, it's the time of year for it. So
yeah, don't. My eyes this morning, I was like, can I claw them out? Because I want to claw them out.
Yeah, it's just my nose at the moment for me that I'm suffering with, but at least it's not my eyes. Right, so we're at the halfway mark now, and let's move on from Kate the hobby to Kate the person. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to start probing your personal life, your history, what were your GCSE results, all of that sort of bad. But it's just so we do sort of like to get to know the person behind the hobby, because at the end of the day, we are all people as well. It's great that we've got this one common thing in that we can all share together, but in the few years that I've been on here, what I found is that there's much more that connects people on this. You know, it's great. Yeah, it's great. We've all like to sit down and paint little bits of plastic, but
that's not the core of our individuality,
exactly.
is it? Like, we are all our own person. It's just we have this amazing thing that connects us.
Yep. So we're going to start off first of all with some rapid fire questions, and this is a dunk segment, which I'm stealing from him.
I'm putting my cup down and I'm ready.
Oh, so what's your favourite crisp?
Salt vinegar, McCoy's.
That was a very quick response. I enjoy that. Now, it's something I always ask when people say salt and vinegar McCoy's, though, because years ago they used to be quite tangy. Yeah. Nowadays they're quite powdery.
Yeah.
Have you've sort of just kept throughout with it? You haven't sort of thought,
Well, I used to like hula hoop salt and vinegar, and then I got into McCoy's when they changed it.
Okay. Fair enough. Because McCoy's back in the day, you'd put them in your mouth and you could feel the size of your mouth sort of imploding a little bit with the sourness of it. Yeah. Exactly. That's why I used to have, used to go out.
It's like the saliva glands go, don't they? You're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. So, next follow-up question to that is, you finished off your McCoy's. What drink are you going to wash them down with? Dunk always sort of goes with the Pepsi challenge. You know, you're a Pepsi person, you're a Coke person. But there we go, straight away, another rapid answer. Dr. Pepper. Very solid.
Anyone that knows me knows that I am an absolute Dr. Pepper addict.
Now, are we going with OG, all the sugar, or are you going with zero?
No, all the sugar. If I'm having it, why take the joy out?
You know what, you say that. I think Dr. Pepper Zero is the closest I've tasted to like the sugar version of it. I don't think it's too much.
I tried it and it basically tastes like sadness.
No, that's Coke Zero.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so, all right.
I like a Diet Coke if I feel like I've had too much sugar, but I'm a full fat girl, I'm afraid.
See, I'm going to say something here. I don't like the phrase full fat when it comes to drink. They're just,
all the sugar, all the hyper, all the caffeine, please.
That's a better way of saying it. Like, I used to work with a girl years ago, and she said, "Oh, can I have a full fat Coke?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Why not?" I was like, "They don't sell full fat Coke. It's not fucking milk." Yeah, you can have a Coke or you can have a diet. There's no difference. But that's just me being an anal asshole more than anything else.
Well, that's just kind of, I think, growing up in the female culture, they do very much call it full fat.
Yeah, it's the use of diet, isn't it? I don't think diet's the right word.
But they call it Diet Coke, don't they? Like,
it just should be
actual brand name. There's nothing you can do about that.
Less sugar Coke. There you go. That's what it needs. But that won't sell.
But then they've got a zero Coke. But then didn't they make the zero Coke because men wouldn't buy diet? It's the exact same thing. So they named it Coke Zero, so it didn't have the word diet in it, so men would buy it.
I am fully here for that toxic masculinity because the advert was a Diet Coke break. I don't want to be walking around drinking Diet Coke and someone assuming, I bet he likes to look at topless men.
Black label that says zero.
Yeah. And there you go. See, look, on the continent, it's Coke Light.
The amount of fucks I give about this sugar.
And in the rest of the world, it's Coke Light apart from like America. So what are you going to do? Now, moving away from the sugary drinks and stuff, one of Doug's killer questions is, you have your fry up.
Yeah.
We're talking everything, proper full English, your beans, your black pudding, bacon, sausage, fried eggs will go with. What is your favourite thing on it? And what is your least favourite thing? What are you taking off that plate?
Mushrooms I have to take off. I can't do it. It's a texture thing. I can't deal with the texture. Other than that, fucking everything. I want fried bread. I want black pudding. I want bacon. I want sausage. I want fried eggs. I want beans. Everything but I want my grilled tomato. If I'm having a fry up, I want everything, but the mushrooms can go F themselves because they are slimy little things and I can't deal with it in my mouth.
I don't mind a fried mushroom. I don't know what it is. I don't mind it. But
no, and it's not the taste. Like if there's mushrooms on the plate, I can dunk my bread in like the juice and it's yummy. It's the texture. The texture of mushrooms makes me feel icky.
Fair enough.
But no, everything else. Give me extra black pudding as well. I love black pudding so much.
I love black.
It's just it's just flavour and yummy, and you put that with on a spoon. Like, you get your fork and you get a bit of tomato, a bit of sausage, a bit of bacon, a bit of black pudding, dunk it in your egg, sorted. Absolutely amazing.
You know what? I was raised in, like, I came, like, my background is of Irish heritage, and black pudding, you always have black pudding on a Friday. And I must have been about 10
Is
before
it
I realised
Ireland that
what is
has
that?
white
Yeah,
pudding as
it is.
well? Or is,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'd never dabble with white when my mum was cooking the fry ups because she didn't like it. It was black pudding.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I must have been about 10 when someone was like, oh, you know what that is? And I was like, no. And they told me, I was like, well, I've been eating it for 10 years, so I'm not going to stop now.
It's like,
And
it's congealed blood and fat. I'm like, damn straight, that's why it tastes good.
yeah,
Like when you cook meat, where's the flavour come? It comes from the fat.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you know what?
I apologise to any vegans or vegetarians. Obviously, what your life choice is absolutely yours. But for me, I am a little bit of a carnivore. The more fat, the more blood, the more meat, the better.
Yeah. Good too. And, you know, I don't care if I offend vegetarians. My girlfriend's vegetarian.
Oh, no, I don't care if I offend them, but I apologise for them feeling offended.
You're nicer than me for apologising to them. So, we'll come away from the food stuff now. Actually, no, one last food question, because this is something that I always like. Pie. What is your pie? What is your pie choice?
I am going to lose your favour right now. I do not like pastry.
No, you're not going to lose my favour. That's fair enough.
Again, it's a texture thing. The taste is amazing, but the flakiness, I think it's that slightly autistic thing. I can't deal with the in my mouth.
That's fair enough.
It's a texture thing. The taste, absolutely. Pies, I'll take the top off and eat the filling every day. It's basically a stew, and I'll make.
Yeah, you know what?
I love making stews. What are you gonna do for dinner? I don't know. I'm fucking cold and I've got no food. Let's chop everything up and throw it in the slow pot. You know.
For years as a kid, I never really used to like the pastry, and then it's only sort of in recent years I've gotten more on board with it since I discovered Greg's. But as a kid,
no, my son is a proper Greg's sausage roll fiend. We go past, and I'm like literally dragging him off, like no, and he's like, I need my sausage rolls.
Yeah, kids and Greg's sausage rolls, it's like crack. I don't get it. My 5-year-old does it.
It's like, what are you putting in this? They're like putting in like a little line of Coke or something just to get them addicted.
Yeah, I think it's the Northeast. They do something to it, but that's again my girlfriend's.
Damn you, northern people.
So
I'm allowed to say that.
We'll move away from the food. Obviously, you mentioned growing up that you were a bit of sort of a nerdy tomboy.
Yeah.
Apart from your D&Ds, your Warhammer, all of that sort of stuff, what other sort of nerd influences have you got? You mentioned Lord of the Rings, obviously, but
so can you see me okay? Because I can probably put a light on, but it's bear with me. I realise my house has just got really dark all of a sudden. Hang on. I don't know how to make it better.
yes.
So yeah, Lord of the Rings for me was, I didn't read the Lord of the Rings until I was about 13, so I was quite late coming into it, I suppose. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I saw the Lord of the Rings, the first movie, at the cinema 7 times, because I was just like, I've never seen anything like this. Like this, cinematically is just incredible.
Yeah.
I can't, like, it kind of like, it was so well adapted from what I envisioned in my head.
Yeah.
Which for other books hadn't quite been the case. Like, I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. So basically, long story short, when I was younger, I never used to really read to myself. Mm-hmm. And then when I was 9, my stepdad used to start reading to us at night. And what he would do is had this Dalmatian flat cap type thing, and he'd put it on, and that was the reading hat. So the reading hat meant that he was sitting down, it was time to read. So he put the hat on, and my nan had bought this book called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And he, before that, we used to read the Famous Five.
Yep.
So he did a few Famous Fives for like a month or 2. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. And then my nan bought this Harry Potter book, and he read the first chapter, and he went, as soon as one chapter was done, the reading hat came off, and it was time for him to go, and we went to bed. And I literally just went, no. And I grabbed this book and must have read about 6 or 7 chapters and was absolutely a miserable, tired bitch the whole next day. And I kind of was just like, that was kind of my first proper introduction to like this fantasy world. Because I suppose Yeah, I suppose we were quite like, we weren't well off, we weren't poor, we were just kind of very middly, and so
Yeah.
we had channels 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't have a computer. We had like one phone line in the house, and like, yes, we got given like comics or books and stuff to keep us, or drawing books to keep us
Yeah.
entertained. And so I always like, I remember my stepdad had a VHS player, so like we'd used to watch some of the old movies, and a lot of them were kind of adult, so we couldn't watch them, and things like the old Batmans and stuff. I remember being like,
Yeah.
ooh. And so again, like as I grew up, I loved, like, Marvel for me is my go-to, but DC, when it comes to DC, Batman for me is such a big thing.
Yeah.
Like I must have seen all every Batman going. Like it just kind of, it was, I don't know, I can't quite explain it. It just
You don't have to.
really piqued my interest, and it just
Yeah.
hit in a way that I was like so enthralled.
Yeah, I get that, because my mum got, like, one of the biggest influences for me was on, like, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of nerd stuff, was my mum. She wasn't actually like very big into it herself, but if she liked something, she was like, "Oh, I'll wait a couple of years and then you can watch it." And yeah, like, I did the old Keaton Batmans with her, because, you know, and then when I got a bit older and I saw all the Bale Batmans in the cinema, I was like, "Mum, you need to see these." And like,
Oh,
it's
good
just
Lord.
gone on.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
So,
I found my lamp, and now I'm blind. So
so who out of everyone, all the Batmans that have been, which is your Batman of choice?
see, that's hard, because I really, and I know it sounds like a complete cop out because it's really recent, but I love Christian Bale.
Mhm.
Like,
That's not a cop out. That's a cop out. I don't
you
think that's a
know,
cop out at all.
you've got your Adam West, you've got your Clue, you know, you've just got your everything. But like, it's just, for me, Christian Bale was kind of, I think it was the first one I'd properly watched where it wasn't full on like slapstick Batman.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice seeing this really serious kind of, it was how, reading it, I'd kind of thought Batman would be.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, yes, of course, I love your Danny DeVito Penguin and your Jack Nicholson Jokers, and even the cartoon Mark Hamill Jokers. Like it's amazing. But for me, watching the Dark Knight trilogy just kind of really encapsulated how in my head what it was like.
Yeah.
And I just think the casting all the way through was really well thought out and just incredibly done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a massive Heath Ledger fan, so I am a bit biased, but like, I think, and it's one of those, okay, Jared Leto did a full-on I'm a psychopath Joker, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Nicholson was a full-blown gangster Joker, and that was awesome. But
Yep.
but Heath Ledger did just full-on anarchist to such perfection that
I get that.
when I think of the Joker, he's not, yes, he's a smart cookie, but he's not so organized as organized crime, and he's not as much of a sociopath as that. Like, Heath Ledger, I think, just hit it so on the head very well. And
I'm going to move on, just on the Joker and just on like a few extra bits, because I saw the recent Robert Pattinson one, and I didn't mind it. It felt like it felt very sort of, what do they call it? The old school detective film noir sort of stuff.
I've actually not seen the Robert Pattinson one yet.
Have you not? I will stop talking then, because I don't want to ruin anything for you.
Oh no, that's okay. No, it's
it.
one of those. I think I like my youngest is only 3, so in the last 3 years I've not had a massive chance to get to cinema as much as I'd like to.
Okay.
I mean, obviously I got in to see the new Deadpool Wolverine because, you know, priorities.
Yeah.
But
no, if you get a chance, I will say watch it. It is it's a very different Batman to what we've had from, I'd say, all of them personally, because like you sort of touched on, like I do like the Michael Keaton ones, but there is still that element of slapstick in it. Clooney was over the top. Val Kilmer one was just kind of, it was all right. It wasn't anything amazing.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. it would do.
Yeah.
I think the villains were the best things in that, personally. But
I think sometimes in the older ones, the villains outshone Batman.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so yeah, definitely see the newer one then. What else, film-wise, are your preferences? When we do this, we had a lot of people that are into horror films. Action, obviously, is a big one. The Marvel stuff.
I'm gonna completely change that up because my go-to feel-good are like rom-coms.
Fair
Like, I love my action. I don't like horror films, but I love things like Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, that sort of thing. I love the stories behind the horror movies. I don't just like jump scare. Like my heart can't take it. But when there's a storyline behind the horror, like this is why this is happening, this is the trauma that made this ghost happen. Yes, love that. But for me, I am like a proper. I like Pitch Perfect. I like Moulin Rouge. I like The Holiday. Like if you look at my my old, obviously no one has DVDs anymore, but it used to be like kind of like I'd have like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Starship Troopers, Batman, all the other Batmans, obviously Fireflies, all everything, and then it would just kind of go into like, and then obviously Disney.
Yep.
I loved Disney. Massive Disney nerd. Everything Disney, I know it. If there's a song in Disney, I know all the words. I love Disney. And then so like rom-coms, just things that make you feel good. Like sometimes I just want to sit there and feel good.
That's fair enough.
I've got a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old. Sometimes I just want to feel happy. And I'm not saying they don't make me feel happy, but they're a teenager and a toddler. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like,
that's quite a gap.
They are mean. Like my 3-year-old came up to me today and went, "Oh, mummy, you have a beard." I was like, "Thanks, babe. I love you too."
Kids that age have just got no sense of there's just no internal monologue with them.
And she was like, I was like, "Do I?" She was like, "No, but I've drawn one on." I was like, "Okay," because you actually worried me there because like it could happen. Like I'm 35. This is a thing. They
plant the seeds, don't they? They plant a bit of paranoia in there.
That's it. Where's the tweezers?
What did he say to me the other day, my lad? He looked at me as like, "Why are you fat?" Like, why are you going to get 5? It's like, why are you going to get punched in the face if you carry on talking to me like that?
My 3-year-old walked up and she looked at me and went, "Bum bum dum, you've got a fat tummy."
Oh no.
Yes, I do. And you know why? Because I had you.
That's called gaslighting your children. But
it's not gaslighting, it's the truth.
Yeah.
I was skinny before you came along.
The kids are assholes. But
my 13-year-old son, he went to France a few months ago, and I gave him a hug, and I was like, "Bye, darling. I love you so much. Have an amazing time." And he looked at me and went, "Your moustache is bigger than mine." Yeah, I'm gonna really fucking miss you. Go live in France.
Don't come back, you little shit.
If they lose you, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, kids. How have you found them?
Sorry?
This is something that we always ask when, obviously, we've got a guest on who's got kids. I'll come back to the films in just a second, but you mentioned your teenager and D&D, and how have they looked at your Warhammer stuff and your painting stuff? Have they sort of thought, is it something I could get into? Can I paint? Have a go?
I tried it with my son. My son did join the Warhammer group at school when he was in year 6, but I think it was kind of, I can't speak for him because I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was very mum's into it, so it's not cool.
Okay.
My daughter, bear with me, actually painted a model.
Hey, there we go.
Well, she's 3, so I say painted very loosely. If I can actually find it, that's the thing. Good Lord. Where would it be? So I cleaned my desk recently, so obviously I can't find anything.
Never cleaned your desk. Never cleaned it. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's all right.
Oh, I dropped it. But to be fair, I can't even paint yellow.
There you go. That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. That's
So
blinding.
this is a really bright light, and I don't have any other. So I'm really sorry, everyone that has to very closely look at my skin right now.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. People look at my face when I'm hosting this all the time, so you know.
Yeah.
And
But,
I'd always say, because you've got a store near you, yeah, like my 5-year-old is fascinated by the fact that every month they give her one way for free. He doesn't care what it is, doesn't give a
that's a
crap.
good way to get them into it.
But I went into a store one day and I bought a couple of bits for myself. I was like, "Oh, have you got a million a month?" They went, "Yeah, here you go." They gave me one and they gave him one, and he's like standing there and he was like, "What do I do with this?"
What is this?
Like, well, you know how I build and paint mine? He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "You can do that to yours." He's like, "Can I?" So, "Yeah, can I buy some paint?" So, "Yeah, all right." And every couple of weeks we go down, we get one. He's buzzing. He's got a little Space Marine Scout at the moment that he's going to paint up.
That's adorable.
And again, paint loosely as a term, but it's yeah. At that age, it's something fun that they get to do with
You're
their parents.
just so glad they're like joining in.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. And he actually
yeah, no,
wanted to try.
absolutely.
He wanted to try and play a game the other day, and he didn't go very well because I rolled a 6 and he rolled a 2. So he's like, "No, the 6 is mine, the 2 is yours." It's like, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Now, going back to Disney.
Yeah.
My sister's a massive Disney geek, and I've been to some Disney stuff. It's not entirely for me, I would say. But in the last couple of weeks, we had a guest on called, this is the most amazing name I've ever heard, Real Housewives of Necromunda. Who,
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you ever be, if you know her stuff, you know the work she does, you know she's a big Disney geek as well. Would you sort of look at some of the minis and sort of feel like they think, you know what, I'm going to go for a princess routine on this, or I'm going to think, you know, Seven Dwarves on some dwarves.
I would love to once I maybe get my confidence up, because my main issue would be that I wouldn't do it justice.
Okay.
So like I would love to kind of like, you know how you see people paint things as other factions of things and you're like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, because again, I know 3 years isn't no short amount of time, but compared to people who've been doing it for 30 years, like I think I'd love to do it, but I also would worry that I wouldn't. I mean, if you F it up, you F it up. I mean, I'm very much a learn by doing kind of person. Yeah. But then if it's a model you really like, you're like, God damn it.
See, I'm like that because I've for ages have wanted to do a Magnus Red. Just from the Lord side of it, I've always loved him as a character. And I've always looked at that huge 100-pound thing where he's got his hand out, he's got his huge staff, and I'm like, one day I'll do it. One day I'll do it. And I've been saying that for nearly 6 years. And I think eventually as hobbyists, we've just got to bite the bullet and give it a go. You mess it up. Yeah. You mess it up a bit. But I think...
But I've already done that once this year with Ilario. Like I said, I looked at her for 3 years and then went, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I've got this. And then she turned out all right. I don't like her base. I want to like neaten up her base and stuff. But yeah, it was very much no, I'm going to fuck it up. No, I'm going to fuck it up. And I was just like, no, I got this. We're going to do it. Like, yeah, you get all excited, don't you? Like,
yeah.
And then, yeah, so it's.
And look, if it all goes wrong, just go get a bottle of methylated spirit.
Well, I've been told, again, this is where names, I swear to God I have a brain. It's in there somewhere. There's a particular stripping thing that, again, I can't see the chat, so I don't know if any of my friends are here actually helping me. But because it stopped on Laura Baldwin 1993 saying hi is where my chat stopped. Like back at like 10 minutes in. So it was like a particular, because the only model I've ever stripped, because I'm very much okay, let's see how this works out. Shit, they didn't do a one. Well, this is our colour scheme now. Let's do this. Like, that's kind of how I work. And the only one I've ever stripped was with Death Hole. And I tell you what, that was a mission and a half.
Yeah.
And it was my Necron, my Croissant.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I tried to do it purple, and it just wouldn't go how I wanted. It just wasn't right. And then Fresh and Zim put up their Paint It Green challenge. So I was like, yeah, I can do the green. So got me some Dettol, tipped it into a bowl. But croissant wouldn't quite submerge, so I had to like keep flipping it. You know, as these trials do, they never quite go to plan. And got there with my toothbrush, and I was like, you know, scrubbing with my toothbrush, and yeah, so kind of got it all stripped off, and then ended up painting it green, and that was really good fun. But that is literally the only thing I've ever stripped.
Resh is in the chat saying, "I've told you, Kate, 50 times. It's BioStrip."
I was going to say BioStrip, and I didn't want to sound like a silly Billy. So thank you.
No, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's BioStrip. But for years, I used Dettol. Dettol was always my preference. But at the same time, my girlfriend's granddad only used to clean his kitchen in Dettol. And she's like, it reminds me of granddad's kitchen and hospitals. Stop using Dettol.
It's very, I worked in care I worked in care for years. So yes, Dettol is very much the, oh, look, antibac kind of. But then also, me and Lord Vice of Nurgle, we tried recently elbow grease.
Okay.
It worked for me, not so much for him, I don't think. But I had these orcs, and I painted 3 of them, and then decided I didn't want orcs. So he was like, I'm building up an orc army. I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll send them to you. So I stripped the 3, put them into elbow grease overnight, got the toothbrush, and back to basics, really.
Cool.
But I had only used Sistel paint, so I wonder if maybe different paints react differently.
I have noticed that. I noticed with some of the spray bases that they don't come off so easy sometimes, but some of the Citadel stuff, when I'm using methylated spirits, it just peels off like a blister. It just comes away so quick that it's cheap. So I'm always happy, like we were saying earlier, if something's cheap, it's good.
Well, that's why elbow grease for like 2.5 litres is like £1.50. So I'm like, yeah, cool, done. And I didn't even think of it. And it was, again, me and Nurgle were kind of talking. And he went, oh, yeah, you need like a something. I can't remember the words, like an anti-something or a this something. And I went, oh, that's basically like elbow grease. I use it on so I've got wood Venetian blinds, which are an absolute B word for collecting dust. So I said, you know, you basically close them, spray them, wipe them, then close them the other way, spray them and wipe them, and it just gets all that grease off.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, why didn't you try it? So yeah, I did, and I was like, dude,
it's amazing.
Like this works.
It's so crazy. Like we were saying earlier about makeup brushes, just how many things are just.
It just works.
Yeah. You don't have to break the bank. You don't have to go out and do this. So let's come back onto hobby for the last 10 minutes or so that we're in.
Yep. Am I okay just to nip to the loo very quickly?
Of course you are. Yep. As long as you don't take us through
look at my window. They go, Worthing, woo.
So, I would engage with the chat for a little bit then while we're having a quick break. So yeah, it's me on the main channel tonight. Dunk is on a pond somewhere in Northern Ireland. He's fishing or some stuff. Just about me recently, you would have noticed I haven't been on as much. I haven't been posting as much. I have recently completed a house move, so I'm out of London anymore. I now live in Peterborough. So yeah, that's a big change. And I'm not changing my name from Penge Hammer because I love Penge. Penge is a shithole. It's my shithole. But there we go. I do promise that I will be back up and running soon. I am just in the process of sorting the house out and stuff. This is like a break tonight from doing all of that. So I hope you all have been well. And the guest, I think, is coming back. So we'll crack on. But as an aside, cool, you live near Peterborough. Cool, new friend for me. As an aside, I haven't forgotten. I did say I'd do a giveaway once I reached 500 followers. I will post a story up about that on my personal channel in a bit. I haven't forgotten you. I will still do it, so please don't worry. So yeah, that's what's going on for myself. We will go on for a little bit now. Thank you very much for coming back to us. I hope you would come back and you just didn't run off thinking, oh, fuck this guy. But you've been here for an hour or so already, so there you go. going back. So yeah, like I say, we're on the last home stretch now, last 10 odd minutes or so.
You're almost rid of me.
No, you're almost rid of me. Believe it, I've got to go back and carry on building some wardrobes in a minute. So this has been a nice.
Oh, productive. I'm going back to watch The Boys because I've only just started season 3. So
Fair enough. You know what? I'll actually chat about The Boys. I haven't watched past series 2. I don't know why. I couldn't get into series 3. But how have you been sort of finding it all?
Well, because I've only literally, and this goes how bad, started a week ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I've done 1 and 2 in a week.
Okay.
3, I'm not finding as enthralling, but I am still very kind of like, ooh, shit's going down. So
yeah.
Yes, absolutely very. Sorry, my son's just come down. You're right, babe. He's like, you told me to ignore you. But yeah, so I've been told I need to do 1, 2, 3, and then Gen V, and then 4.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm about 3 episodes into season 3. So I'm just like, some guy exploded some guy from his manhood, and now I don't know how I feel about things.
I watched that episode. Because that was always the joke about how Ant-Man would defeat Thanos in the last Avengers film.
I mean,
like,
it would work, but it would not be family friendly.
No. And you wouldn't have had the good ending that you got for Endgame. Was it Endgame?
Oh my god, Endgame. I remember Endgame, sorry, I keep diverting and I will stop. But I remember Endgame, it came out either the day before or day after my birthday, the year it came out, and it was a working day, and I'd booked the day off work. So I went to the cinema by myself with my massive popcorn and my drink and sat by myself and watched Endgame. So I was like, I am seeing this the day it comes out. Like, I am not, like, I've been waiting. I've watched every single Marvel movie since fucking Iron Man came out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here for this. Like, I love Marvel so much. But like, so I sat there by myself, and then there was me. And the thing is, I wasn't the only one. There were so many like individuals in the cinema who were clearly like, yeah.
Yeah, you were doing that thing where you would look around and you see each other and you just give the little head nod, like, and that's it. Yeah.
You right?
Yeah, it's that little like
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and you all sit there and like we all like if you know. You sit there and you wait for the end, don't you? And all you hear is that clinking of when he's making his heart thing, and you're like, so worth the 10-minute
wait. You know what? I did that with Return of the King.
Fair.
I had the Friday off anyway. The Friday it came out, I had that day off, and someone I worked with come up to me because when they were all coming out, when. It's just a weird coincidence that either I was coming out of it or he was coming out of it as we were going in. So we were coming past each other, and we'd always give each other like, how was it? So when Return of the King came out, he walked up to me. He's like, I bought 4 tickets for it. And for some reason, they'd give me a 5th. And I was like, oh, please don't make me come and see this with your mates because I don't really know you that well.
Yeah.
And he's like, but it's for the showing before. Do you want it? I was like, yes. He's like,
obviously.
You've got to be there at 9 in the morning, though. Is that all right? I was like, it's a free fucking ticket. I'm taking it. Yes.
Yeah. It's Lord of the Rings and it's a free ticket. Yes, I'm there.
I remember coming out at like 12:30 thinking that was fucking amazing. It's like 3 hours of my day, but it meant that I got up in the morning at least. I didn't stay in bed all day. So.
Well, I mean, I was, because like I said, the first one came out when I was like 15. So I think it was like 15, 16, and 18. I think so. It was a 2-year gap, wasn't there? I think between the last 2, and. Yeah, I just remember being, because none of my friends at school had read Lord of the Rings. So my stepdad, bless his heart, came with me. Because I was like, I need to go. But then, again, he's the one who, whenever Harry Potter came out, he was the one who took me there to the midnight getting off the books. So whenever a book was released, I'm like, and so, yeah, like, he was just, my stepdad was just epic.
That's really
him and his really cat.
but again, I was sort of talking about like how my mum influenced the films I liked growing up. Like she showed me Predator, she showed me Alien, she showed me all this mad stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I went to watch Fellowship, I did it with my mates, and I looked at my mum. I was like, "You need to see this." she's never really bought into fantasy. She's never really been her thing. Like, she's like, I don't know. So I was like, just come see it for the spectacle of it. And then as soon as she finished it, she's like, when's the next one?
Literally. Like, I mean, because okay. So as I know we don't have much longer left, so I don't want to take up too much time. The Ring of Power. How are we feeling?
I have not touched it.
I think it's not to. Have you read Silmarillion?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. It ruins stuff. Like, I've read the Silmarillion, I've read The Hobbit, I've read Lord of the Rings, and I watched it and I was like, do you know what? If I could distinguish this from that, it's a very amazing fantasy series.
Yeah.
But they kind of fit the first third of the Silmarillion into one episode.
And I was
like, what?
Yeah.
And then they also very much, I get that they're doing it to kind of get into the whole, they want it to become mainstream and they want it to become popular. So they've kind of very much suggested a lot of things.
Yep.
They weren't in the book.
Yeah.
And it's very upsetting.
I think that's why I couldn't do it. When I was reading sort of bits and bobs about how they've angled it, it was just kind of like, no. And then like they've gotten rid of some characters and made one character do all three of the jobs, and it's just
like, when it comes to Galadriel, is she or is she not the most badass fucking elf going? Like, and I know that they're kind of portraying her, and we had this conversation with my boyfriend a week or so ago, and like, yes, I can watch it because I can kind of cut off and watch it objectively and go, well, that's a very good fantasy series, that's lovely. And he was just like, no, they ruined Galadriel. They made her some vengeful, simpering piece of blah, blah, blah. And like, I get it. Like, I really, really do. But like, and then we also had the same issue with The Wheel of Time, because we both love Robert Jordan and we both love The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Like, amazing books. Again, started it around sort of 14, 15 and so on. And he was like, I've never seen Wheel of Time series. And I said, well, I have. And actually, do you know what? It's not terrible. It's not how I would have imagined it, but it's not horrific.
Yeah.
So I think we got like 2 episodes in and ended up watching Taskmaster instead. So
One of my mates,
we tried.
One of my mates is the biggest Wheel of Time fan. He'd been at me for years to read it, and I never did. And when the show came out, I was like, I'll give it a go. And he just messaged me back saying, just don't.
Well, if you haven't read it, do. Because actually, if you haven't read it, it's not going to offend you.
Yeah.
Like, and I found season 2 easier than season 1.
Okay.
But
yeah,
it's not.
But.
Like, Robert Jordan was such a prolific writer. Like, he was amazing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, don't fuck with his shit, and they did.
See, for me, like, I know when Dunk's on, usually we compare it to like Star Wars, because Star Wars was one of my entry level nerd things, and I don't know if anyone had ever seen it, but the Han Solo film that they did, for me, that's the same thing. It's a very good sci-fi film.
Yeah.
But it feels like they've plastered Star Wars onto it. They've had this script hanging around Hollywood for ages, and they were like, we don't know what to do with it. It's pretty cool. Just make it a Star Wars film.
Which one? I'm sorry?
The Han Solo one.
The latest one on Disney.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed it. And again, I did love things. I liked Star Wars, but I was very much more a Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek.
Yep.
So I was a bit more of a Trekkie and the Battlestar Galactica fan. And I've watched, obviously, all the Star Wars, as you know, let's not be silly. But, yeah, I enjoyed... God, again, I'm so bad with names. What's the one that Ewan McGregor did?
He did the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Obi-Wan Kenobi one, that I very much enjoyed. And I did like The Mandalorian. I've actually, I'm going to admit, not seen, I think, the latest 2 movies. So
okay.
I think I saw the first one where Rey comes in. And
Force Awakens, yeah.
And I've not seen the other 2. I've seen, obviously, all the original 6, because who hasn't?
Yeah.
But, yeah, other than that, I've actually kind of been a bit lax with Star Wars, because I did like it. But, again, I was very much into my Star Trek, Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, all those kind of like. And I do love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Which I know some people are going to be like, "You suck."
No, Star Wars for me was something I was obsessed with for donkeys, and then it's in the last, I would say, the last 10 years, I've mellowed a bit more. Rogue One was amazing, and then after that, it just sort of went. Pew!
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. A lot of people are kind of going, "I refuse to watch the latest one."
Yeah, I wouldn't say I refuse to watch it. I just say I can't be bothered, and that's kind of hurtful.
It hasn't piqued my interest to watch it.
Yeah,
like I said, I'll happily watch the one with Ewan McGregor because I love Ewan McGregor, and two, he was one of my favorite characters from the Star Wars. So I was like, I'm gonna watch Obi-Wan. What the,
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, so I watched that and I very much enjoyed that, and I very much enjoyed The Mandalorian. But again, I think that's a bit more because Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones.
Now that's something I was going to go on to about Game of Thrones, because again, like I mentioned my mum quite a bit, and this will be the last time I mention her. But I've read.
Oh, mention her away. She sounds epic.
Like I read when I found out that Game of Thrones was a book before it was a TV show. I was like, right, I'm going to read this and I'm going to watch it. And I read.
Good luck, because the TV show's going to take over the book.
I read every book before the series would come out, just so that I could sit there and watch it with my mates and see their reactions to bits.
So when we got for you was fun.
All of it was amazing. But like, for example, when we got to
him. Oh yes, they will.
When we got to the end of series 1, my mum again, like not being big into the fantasy stuff, she was like, "Oh no, not zombies." I was like, "Fucking stick with it."
Yeah.
And when we were getting up to like, I watched Red Wedding with my mates. I watched it with my mum, and we're sitting there. And the moment he pops up, it's like, "The Lannister send his regards." Inside, I was like, "Yes, here we go!" And then instantly, I'm like, "No, I know what's going to happen," and I'd watch their faces instead.
They're like, "Oh my goodness!"
It was Pedro Pascal.
Oh my God, you raped her, you murdered her, and you're like, "Stop bragging and just stab him."
My mates were going livid. They were going so livid, and they were looking at me like, "Why isn't he killed him yet? Why isn't he?" And I was like, and in the moment, it was when I read it in the book, the mountain punched his teeth out of his head, and you hear the tinkle of the teeth on the floor.
Eyes.
Yeah, all of the detail in it. I was like, "That's amazing." And then when it happened in the show, I was like, part of me's like, "Fucking yes, go on!" And then just seeing their faces, and they were like.
Honestly, because I was like, "He's done it." Because I haven't read the book, so I was like, He's done it. Oh no, his teeth. Oh shit. His eyes. Like, there's like there's no recovering from this.
Nope. And I think the problem with that was once it got past the books.
I killed her, and you're like, "Oh my God, you're a dick face." What? Like, oh my God, the baddie actually wins sometimes. What on earth?
When Joffrey died.
When it comes to fantasy, you're so used to the fantasy being good prevailing over evil. And not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones comes in and goes, "No.
Yeah.
No, you're okay."
And, like, my mate, I always remember the week after was it first or second episode of that series where they killed Joffrey off? And
it's like, yes, die, you evil git.
My mate, we went out that night and we got absolutely smashed, and one of my mates was like half asleep, he was half awake, he's like this, and he's looking, and we come around, he looked at me like, "Ghosty, they killed Joffrey. Oh, that's too easy, they fucking poisoned him, why didn't they just fucking murder him?" And just like, he was getting so angry at the fact that they didn't give him a nasty death, but they give everyone else a nasty death. And then he'd fall asleep and he'd wake up and he'd do it again. And for like a good half an hour, it was just like excitement. He just remembered they killed Joffrey, and then they poisoned him, and he fall back asleep. And it was a fun night. But
what that is that's also a very, very clever way of writing that the evil don't always get what they deserve. Innocent people suffer, and the people who are evil sometimes get a really quick and easy death.
Yep.
It sucks, but it happens.
Have you tried the current Dance with Dragons yet?
The what? Sorry.
The current one that they're doing.
I'm 3 episodes in, so no spoilers.
Okay, that's fine. What, 3 episodes into series 1 or 2?
2.
Okay. But did you enjoy the ending of series 1? Because I thought that was brilliant.
Oh my God, Tom.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like.
And it was that is your reaction is that, and then they zoom in on the character's face, and he's doing it. He's like, oh.
Like, he didn't mean for that to happen. That dragon completely took control and was just like, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well,
absolutely not ready for that. Oh my god, I've kicked my stand. There we go. Yeah. So I got so excited, I kicked my camera stand. Honestly, I remember sitting there, I was like, oh, look at them. And he's like, pew! And it's like, what are you, like, it's like a Pikachu against the fucking, like, Charizard. What the fuck? Yeah. Like, pew! And it was like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great ending to that series.
Actual, I remember sitting there and being like, because I at the time I didn't have it on TV, so I used to stream it from America at 2 a.m. on my phone. So I would set my alarm for 1:30, go down, get myself a Dr. Pepper, come back up with a sandwich, and like sit and watch it. And I remember being like at like 3 a.m. and then no one to talk to because no one else is awake.
And then you got to go back to bed. Yeah, you got to go lie down and think about that for the next 20 minutes while you're trying to fall asleep.
Wow.
But no, I get that. When you finish House of Dragon, this series, The House of Dragon, drop me a line. Because not a lot of...
Dude, you what the fudge nuts?
Yeah. It's a good series, and I'm looking forward to series 3. I will say that. But
I mean, and it's an amazing series. I will agree with the consensus of they rushed season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Like it was rushed. They could have done it over 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm. It was a disappointing.
It's a really tough one because I haven't read the book, so I can't judge them too harshly. But but all I would say as a viewer, why was the Battle of Winterfell so fucking dark? I couldn't see shit.
Yeah,
I could not see shit.
It was absolutely horrible. I get the reasoning of having it at night, but you could have just filmed it in the day. And put a blue
it's nighttime, but we don't have night vision. We're not dragons. We can't see shit.
Yeah.
Why am I looking at blurs running around my screen? And then, I mean, the Arya thing, to be fair, because I haven't read the books, I was just like, fuck yes, oh my god. Like, he caught her and I was like, no! I was like, ah! like literally, like, my facial expressions must have just been, this is why I have wrinkles. Fantasy stories is why I have wrinkles.
But it's good though, and even for me, like I say, where I was reading the books, there's characters that they didn't include. There was characters that they sort of merged into a couple of things, and you're just kind of like, I understand why you've done it, but I don't appreciate it. Or for pacing, okay, get rid of that because you want to draw an end to it at some point. But yeah, there were just bits I think they could have done better. Like you say, the last series was too rushed.
What got me was like they did the whole Arya two-faced assassin thing, and then all she did was not use any of those skills whatsoever and kill a Night King. And I'm like,
yeah,
was it worth being stabby by the weird girl?
I think the only reason that they actually did that, the one time she used it was when she killed the pedo Kingsguard guy, wasn't it?
Walder Frey, like, do your son's taste nice?
Yeah, that was pretty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm like, absolutely brilliant. But no, can't eat my own children. No, thank you.
But yeah, like you say, there's so many sort of different little arcs they could have done things better with. Although I did enjoy Littlefinger getting his comeuppance a bit. I thought that was quite well done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
comeuppance is just such a nice feeling, isn't it?
And like you say, for the whole series and every series of it, it always just feels like no matter what happens, the bad guys win. So when the good guys get their little taste of victory, you're
yeah, Ramsay Bolton got eaten by his dogs. I was like,
he was such an amazing character.
Oh my god, he played that character so freaking well. Like, have you ever hated anyone so much? Because I haven't.
Him and Joffrey,
Yeah. So Jack Gleeson and I can't remember.
Ewan something.
Yeah, like honestly, actors to the extreme.
Yeah, and just think, Joffrey all those years ago was the little lad saved by Christian Bale
and
Batman Begins.
Exactly, on the balcony, like.
Yeah, that tiny little scared blonde boy, and the next minute he's murdering prostitutes with a crossbow. So there you go.
Or with a spiked scepter about making someone else do it, like
horrible boss.
I
but
feel
he was
like we've
brilliant.
tangented again.
That's the fun of this. That's the fun of this chat. That's what we do.
Like, are we talking about what we meant to? No.
So I think, yeah, we will draw an end to it there. We did start 10 minutes late, so we're now coming up to the 10-minute-past 9 mark. So we'll wrap it up. And what we do at the end of every show is we give you a chance to sell yourself a little bit. So for anyone that's tuned in tonight or is listening back or watching back on any of the other things that we host it up, where can we find you online? What are you up to?
But I'm a big old technophobe, so literally I am katietrieswarhammer on Instagram. That is it.
Okay.
Go onto my follow list. Like, I have so many friends who are amazing and deserve a big old follow. So
Well, take a chance to shout some of them out.
oh my god, but I don't remember their names. What have I said about names? Okay.
Well, I mean,
So I know Martin's Hobby Fiasco or Fiasco Hobby, I think. Tiz Paints Minis, amazing. Lord Rise of Nurgle, absolutely. Vrash, Zimboyots, I think. Battle Brush Girl. Oh, it's like everyone. And if I'm following them, it's because I think they're epic. And there's like 2,000 of them. So like just go and look through my list. If you go onto my follows, go and see what catches your fancy. If it does, like, I won't follow someone if I don't think they're amazing. But things I generally, as soon as someone follows me, I'm like, you like Warhammer too. So like, I will follow them, and it's go. Just like, it's such an epic community. If you're new or don't know what you're doing or you're not quite sure, just join and just talk to people. If they like your story or they like your post, message them and ask them for help or say hello. Yep. Like, I started with a bloody Imperium magazine, and now I have 2,000 people that I can actually turn to and talk to.
Yeah.
Like, I say, to be fair, out of all of those, I probably talk to maybe 200 of them, but that's 200 people that I didn't have before that I can now turn around to and be connected and feel safe with. If I'm having a bad day, like, you know, I'm on antidepressants. I got severe postnatal depression after my last child. I now can turn around and talk to people and they can just bring me out of it and be amazing. Like, this is such an incredible hobby and people should be able to just talk to anyone they want. So I'm not going to big up me or anyone else. I'm just going to say big up everyone, because everyone is incredible. And if you just take the time, and I know it's hard for people to send that first message, but if you just send a, hey, I love your work, how are you doing? A lot of them really genuinely will just send back and say, hey.
Cool. Well, you're getting a lot of love in the chat for those comments. So,
I can't see the chat. So
well,
I'll take your word for it.
It's fresh. It's Lord Viruses Nurgle. You know, it's the people that you've been name dropping anyway, so it's fine. But there you go.
Name dropping. Yeah.
So,
but actually only friends.
So what we'll do, we will have you back on at some point, because I know this was Dunk organised this one, and Dunk was looking forward to having you on, and then has ended up on a lake. So we'll have to get Dunk involved.
Myself, so thank you. You are very easy to talk to, and I'm very nervous, so that's amazing. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, as long as that's been good for you, we'll get you back. We'll chat with Dunk again, and brilliant. Cool. So, guys, thank you very much for joining in the chat tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. We always appreciate your views, your visits. Next week, I can't remember who we've got on, because I am pretty shit at looking at the calendar. But we will be back here at the same.
Always.
I'm the face. Dunk's the organizer. So, but yeah, we'll be back here next week, same time, same channel. So if you don't follow us already, please do. It's the _Inquisition _, because Dunk loves an underscore. Dunk __ Homes, and then Penhammer, one word. That is that is us. And in the meantime, we'll catch you next time. Thank you very much for coming on tonight, Kate. It's been a blast having you on.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Catch you all later. Cheers, guys.
Bye.